beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today in this video, I want to discuss the fate of my favorite Game of Thrones house, House Stark. Now, at the moment, there are only 3 legitimate Stark siblings who are still alive, Sansa, Arya, and Bran, and that raises the question of, at the end of the show, who is going to carry on the Stark name into the next generation? Now, I do believe that Sansa has a future as the Lady of Winterfell and Wardeness of the North, and if she did have children, they could become Starks because they would be heirs to her title and therefore take her name, which we have seen before in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe. However, my problem is I don't really see Sansa wanting to marry again after the 2 bad marriages that she's had, first to Tyrion and second to Ramsay Bolton. So if she were to get married in season 8, to me it would seem very rushed and out of character for her. If she was going to marry anyone, I would think it would be Tyrion because I think they could be compatible under better circumstances. However, Tyrion is the rightful Lord of Casterly Rock, and that would raise problems since Sansa would be in Winterfell, which makes me think that she will not marry anyone at all, and therefore I don't think she would have children. With Arya, I know a lot of people think that she will never get married or have children. I see a lot of people say they think her future involves her either dying or leaving Westeros, possibly going west of Westeros. I have said before that I don't agree with that at all, and I do think there is a chance that Arya could someday get married, possibly to Gendry, who I think is the most likely candidate for her husband. However, the thing is, I think Gendry is going to get legitimized as a Baratheon, at least in the TV show, considering he is the only one of Robert Baratheon's children who is still alive in the television show, and therefore he is the future of House Baratheon. So if Arya were to marry him, their children that they would have together would be Baratheons and not Starks, which means that the Stark name could not live on through Arya either. And then that leaves us with Bran, and I think it is pretty obvious that Bran is not going to have children. I am not sure if it is outright stated on the TV show, but in the books, it is said that Bran is unable to procreate because he is paralyzed from the waist down. There's a quote in the first book where Ned is thinking about this. "But he will never run beside his wolf again," he thought with a sadness too deep for words, "or lie with a woman, or hold his own son in his arms." And truthfully, even if Bran were somehow able to produce children, I just don't think it is a priority to him now that he is the Three-Eyed Raven. I think he's really lost his identity, and now having a wife and kids is just not something that he is thinking about, and he doesn't really care about ever becoming Lord of Winterfell, as he tells Sansa. So I don't think there's any way that we are going to get any Stark heirs from Bran, which basically means that now none of the 3 remaining Starks are going to have children that take the Stark name. So, does this mean that the name Stark is going to die out at the end of the series? Not necessarily. So at the Game of Thrones wrap party, which happened a few weeks ago, someone released this picture from the party showing what looks to be a sigil that combines the Wolf of House Stark with the 3-headed dragon of House Targaryen, causing some people to theorize that Jon and Daenerys will combine their houses and create a new House Stargaryen. Now, I am fully aware that this could be the writers trolling us, as they like to do, and if this was an actual spoiler, perhaps they would have guarded it more carefully. I also don't even know where this picture originally came from, who took it, etc. So it could be just, completely untrue with no merit in it. However, what made me think that this may be true is I was researching another video comparing Game of Thrones to the War of the Roses on which it is based, and I realized there is a historical parallel which could add some truth to this theory. So, as I have stated before, I think that Jon and Daenerys take partial inspiration from Elizabeth of York and King Henry VII, respectively. Elizabeth of York was from the House of York, which inspired the Starks on Game of Thrones, and Henry VII became king, ending the War of the Roses. He was from the Tudor family and was Earl of Richmond before he became king, and he was overseas and then sailed over with this army that he had gotten overseas, had a uncle with him, a family member, and it's just really strong parallels to Daenerys' story. But what's interesting about this is the emblem that was taken by the House of Tudor when they came to power. So if you don't know much about the War of the Roses, this was an ongoing series of wars between the Yorks and the Lancasters. The Lancasters were the inspiration for the Lannisters on Game of Thrones. Now the Yorks were represented by a white rose and the Lancasters by a red rose, hence why it was known as the War of the Roses. Now the Tudors were distant relations of the Lancasters, so when the House of Tudor became the ruling kings of England, supported by Henry VII's marriage to Elizabeth of York, the daughter of King Edward, they combined the white rose and the red rose together into one sigil to represent the House of Tudor. And I just think it is so interesting how we have a white rose and a red rose, ice and fire. To me, the parallels here are just obvious. It's a no-brainer to me. So if Jon and Daenerys, aka Henry VII and Elizabeth of York, were to marry and combine the sigils of House Stark and Targaryen, it would be a strong historical parallel. Also in canon, we've seen characters who have used the sigils of both their mother and their father. When Joffrey and Tommen were ruling as kings of Westeros, they associated themselves both with the Baratheon stag and Lannister lion. Obviously, we now know that Robert Baratheon was not their biological father, but they needed his claim in order to be king, and publicly they were his sons, even if there was a rumor going around about Cersei and Jaime was their true father. Publicly, Robert Baratheon was their father, and therefore they had the right to use his sigil. So, what exactly does this have to do with the future of the Stark name? Well, as I said before, it is very, very obvious that Daenerys is going to be pregnant with Jon's child in season 8. I mean, the foreshadowing for this has been so heavy-handed. I think pretty much everyone has accepted it as fact at this point, and we all know it's going to happen. However, I also think that Daenerys and Jon may have twins instead of just one child, and I made an entire video talking about this, which I linked below in case you want more details on why I think this. So, if Jon and Daenerys have 2 children together, the firstborn would be the heir to the 7 kingdoms, and the second would not have anything to inherit. Unless Sansa needs an heir to Winterfell, in which case she could name the second Jon and Daenerys child as her heir, and that child could take on the Stark name. Now, I know I said I think Arya may have children with Gendry, but I think if Sansa needs an heir, she would probably go to Jon and Daenerys' second child as opposed to one of Arya's children, because one, Arya doesn't strike me as someone who would want to have a lot of children. She may have only 1 or maybe 2 if she does end up getting married and having kids, because she doesn't strike me as someone who would really enjoy being pregnant, considering she really wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that she's used to doing. Then again, though, Robert Baratheon, Gendry's father, did have like 20 bastards, and Arya was one of 5 siblings. So if the 2 of them get married and they have inherited their parents' fertility, then Gendry could probably get Arya pregnant just by looking at her the wrong way, but that's besides the point. I also just think that if Arya ever had kids, she would be a super overprotective mama wolf. She loves very fiercely, and I don't know how she would feel about one of her children having to grow up at Winterfell and being groomed to be the Stark heir. I don't know how she would feel about her kids being separated from her. And also, just practically speaking, I highly doubt that we will see her have any children in season 8. I feel like her future would be more so implied. It would be more so implied that she might marry Gendry, implied that she might have children with him, whereas I am very, very confident that we will see Daenerys give birth to Jon's child in season 8, or possibly even children, because I think they're going to have twins, like I said. So if Sansa needs an heir, Jon and Daenerys' children will already be born, with one set to inherit the Seven Kingdoms and one free to be the heir to Winterfell. Now, I think that Jon and Daenerys' second child will take the Stark name when they grow up in exchange for being named the heir to Winterfell and the North. And there is a precedence for this in the book series. First of all, Sansa's storyline in the books is different. She is never married to Ramsay Bolton in the books, and instead she is in the Vale posing as Littlefinger's illegitimate daughter. Littlefinger is trying to arrange a betrothal between Sansa and Harold Harding, aka Harry the Heir, who is the heir to the Vale. He will inherit the Vale should Robin Arryn die without issue. Now, though, if Harold Harding does inherit the Vale, he will not be Lord Harold Harding. It is established that should that happen, he will take the name Arryn and keep House Arryn alive. Also, in A Song of Ice and Fire, in the books, there is the issue of House Hornwood in the north, after Lord Hallis Hornwood and his son Daeron are both killed, leaving only a widow, Lady Danella. Now, it's proposed that Baron Tallheart, whose mother was a Hornwood, could become the new Hornwood heir and possibly take the last name Hornwood. And I think these are both possible foreshadowing to a Jon and Daenerys baby taking the Stark name. So you guys, let me know what you think about this theory. Do you think that Jon and Daenerys' child could potentially continue on the Stark name, or perhaps create a new house, House Stargaryen? Or do you think that part of the bittersweet ending will be the House Stark name dying out? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, give this video a like if you enjoyed, and I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel to see more videos from me. I am going to have some more Game of Thrones theories coming up very, very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye! See you next time!